Okay, so I'm running 2.06 and I'm going to demonstrate that the tab sysx's are in fact transmitted when you configure the SD90 correctly. So let me start by first showing you that on the screen here I have a Midi monitor, and I'm going to press the transpose up and down button, and you'll see that I don't see anything. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go into menu, we're going to go into Midi, and of course, first thing is I'm going to make sure the USB MIDI keys is in fact enabled, right? So now my MIDI gadget port is operational. I'm going to check my sources just to make sure that it is checked. Okay. Now my MIDI monitor will monitor that port. Now this is important. This screen here defines the context of what many of the features operate under. So, for example, if we just talk about the outbound side, the right side of this screen, if I were to filter anything related to the transmission on the MIDI side, because I have style and voice selected, I would want to use the arranger section to do any of the filtering. If I had MIDI 1 or MIDI 2 playing, then in order to either filter or unfilter something, I would need to use the GM section of the arranger. Let me see if I can explain what that means. So I'm going to stay on style and voice. So this means that I'm transmitting using the MIDI mapping functions that are defined in the arranger section or the keyboard section. So if I go back into there, I'll go into MIDI, and so it's going to be this section that's going to be relevant. So I'll go into transmit, filter, and I will turn off my tabs. So now I'm not filtering tabs anymore out of the arranger side of the unit. So now when I press any button on the screen, you'll see up there, I just pressed, for example, transpose up and down. There's harmony. So I'm transmitting the sysx's associated with it. Now say for example that I'm going to go ahead and clear this. Say for example I had in my MIDI port designator I had the GM side of the unit configured. Now if you'll notice when I press the transpose up or the transpose down button, nothing works because I need to go into the GM side and I need to be able to then make my changes that would affect how the general MIDI side of the unit operates. Now when I press the plus and minus button, it works. So I want to re-emphasize the fact that you need to pay attention to this screen right here because this is very important, and this is what defines the context of whether the arranger or the GM side of the unit is operational and in effect for the output side and for the input side. So for example, having keyboard and keyboard selected here tells me that for both in 1 and in 2, I'm going to use the arranger keyboard section of any of my MIDI mappings to have any effect. The GM side will have no effect on the IN1 and IN2 side. If I had one of these two selected, now my GM MIDI mappings on the input side for physical port 1 will take effect. So anyways, I know this is probably a little bit complicated and difficult to grasp if you're new to the unit. I will tell you that, I think the normal way, unless you're doing something fancy, if it's just for live performance, is to select keyboard, keyboard, and style and voice, and this will generally now do what you want to do, and you'll only have to modify the arranger keyboard MIDI mappings, not the GM side. Okay, hope that helped.